everyone. Welcome to the late morning discussions. Thank you for arriving, whether you did it by bike, whether you did it by sea, air, I'm not sure, but thank you for braving the tube strike and coming to ATS London. I'm dead excited about this discussion. We're going to be talking about the adtechification of the creator economy, and I've got a wonderful panel to do it, so I'm going to pass over for quick introductions, starting with you, Joe.
Nice to meet you all. Nice to meet you all. Can you all hear me? Great. Smash the first step. Joe Lamb, head of Arcade Creative. So we are the Creative First Creative Solutions arm for the Sidemen, part of the Arcade Group. So essentially, brand and partners route into the Sidemen's media inventory, working with them in a more meaningful way. Our whole position is think like a creator. How can brands be additive to the creative space, and how can the creative space be additive back to brands? Over to you.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm from the Managing Director from Miroma Founders Network. I've got a very extensive background in creator in terms of platform technologies. I also helped what was Group M, RIP, to build their influencer product as well. And now at Miroma Founders Network, we work with businesses on very high and fast trajectories of growth. And so we kind of look at how creator content as well is a big part of that journey.
Hi, I'm Alex Powell, CEO of Pixels, which is the first real-time creator marketing platform for the open internet. So we cover everything from web, CTV, app, and we're looking at ways of commercializing the creator economy outside of social.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Let's dive in. The creator economy is huge. I don't think there's any way to understate that. It's already worth 250 billion to the economy a year. That could double in the next 3 years or so, which is incredible. One of the questions for our industry has long been, where does Adtech fit in terms of the creator economy? And there's a little overview to start with in terms of creator-led campaigns. How can Adtech really get involved? I'll chuck to you first, Alex. How do you think Adtech fits?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the creator economy, as you said, is enormous, but it's also a mess. I think there's so many challenges when you look at the commercialization of the creator content that goes out in terms of the reliability of reach, the seasonality and the spikes that you get when you commission influencer content can be a massive challenge for CMOs, CFOs, etc. And so I think we need to look at what the problems are within that space on social and what can the open internet, so apps, TV, web, etc., contribute to that. And it feels like what the ad tech space is so good at is turning that influencer content into more consistent reach, measurability, so taking people from the upper funnel and actually looking at things like brand recall, where when you look at some of the placements that you get within influencer content can be very misleading or very opaque in terms of what they're actually promoting, and turning that into a much more commercialized product.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because, like, you know, you've said before, Alex, stuff can go viral and you can get God knows how much reach, millions and millions of views, and then the next month it might not be the same. So it's a difficult landscape for AdTech, for reach, for ROI to really be involved. Abby, how do you see AdTech fitting in the influencer creator economy?
Yes, I think measurement is always a really common problem that I think people like to talk about, but I also think that there is a massive issue in the efficiency of these campaigns and how actually the process of getting those campaigns to market. You know, I always have to give my clients a big long lecture at the beginning of any influence campaign that this is not, you're not booking a TV ad, you're not booking a display campaign, like these are highly changeable, flexible. And I think my frustration always with influencers, what makes creator content is the same thing that breaks it, is that it's human. And that's the instability is actually the reality of working with that is really, really difficult. So I have a dream of a model, which is similar, I guess, to the podcasting space, where I think there's room for your bigger kind of premium direct buys with big specific influencers. I think you guys are a good example of that. But then also what I'd like to see more of is that kind of Acast level layer where you can be more programmatic and more smart about buying in bulk and more efficiently in the process of the buy as well as the consistency of it. I think a lot of people have attempted it, and I think because of that issue that we talked about, because of the human element, it's really, really very difficult. But I think that's really where I would like to see AdTech take on more of the burden. And I think when we're operating at that kind of two-tier, similar to the way that we do in programmatic and direct, I think that's when the industry will get taken a bit more seriously and we'll be able to scale better.
Yeah, and Joe, how do you feel it fits with with what you're doing exactly as well?
For sure. I think from our point of view, Arcade, we're at a very exciting point in the creator economy's journey. Creators the size of the Sidemen have been working and building their audiences and building that connection with the audience in the background for the last 15 years. That could be suggested that we're getting to a sunset period. We're not. We're getting very much to the sunrise of the creator economy. So this conversation is actually very important. I think as we formalise and mature as a space, these tools, these capabilities, the adtechification is going to become more and more important. We need to measure effectiveness. We need to measure, I guess, ROI, etc., and use those tools that have come before to help influence that. I agree with your point there on the levels to it. We often chat internally like the creator economy will be incredibly different in the next 5 years' time. It won't even exist. You'll have the big 1% layer, which you kind of use for reach or big moments, and then you'll have this other layer down at the bottom where it's very much a volume play, where you can work with many for little and kind of spread it out that way. And then there'll be a middle point where certain creators who are scaling will either find themselves dropping down into this lower category or will need investment to come in to then push them up. So overall, I think it's very exciting. I think it's also very important, especially as creators the size of the Sidemen are looking to work with bigger brands, I guess more established brands, more traditional brands. That measurement piece is going to become more and more important. And I'm excited to see where it goes, to be honest. And products like Pixels and the like are going to be very important, I guess, diversifying those revenue streams and getting that content even further.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, for you, it's at Pixels and what you're doing, it's bringing that to the open internet. It's bringing kind of breaking the influencer platforms, creator platforms, and kind of bringing it out to a wider sphere. How do you see programmatic being involved in that, and how can brands really take advantage?
Yeah, great question. I think there's been so much sort of noise in social around influencer content, but actually, if you're a CFO or if you're a CMO, that reliability of your campaigns is so important. You might have, a load of conversions 1 month because of a viral campaign. If you're a CFO, you want to see that being repeatable. And so how do you look towards packaging that up in a more kind of commercial way? We were talking earlier about, if you break down what an influencer campaign is made up of, so much of it is actually the creative part of that process, and they're creating an ad for you. We've got an internal saying, that ads on the web are boring. And so how do you kind of bring that creativity that the influencer economy has brought to social? I think you can package those up in much more compelling, much more exciting ways and give reliability and give scale and reach to these campaigns. But also, it's not just about reach. It's also then about driving it down through consideration, even through to sales, and looking at things like how can measuring attention within your unit on web, on CTV, wherever it might be, actually lead to brand recall and actually be able to give reports back to the people who are signing off these budgets. Because if you can't prove that you're being effective, then you'll lose the budget. I think that's a really important lesson and a really important next step in really cracking how do we grow it, not from just overtaking traditional media, but actually becoming the de facto way in which adverts are distributed around the open internet.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, which I suppose is part of my job. But one of the things that makes creators so special and how it's risen so quickly is that authenticity, that connection to their own audience and what they bring to it. How can programmatic fit that and brands safely retain their own authenticity and take advantage of the creators? Joe, you're on the Sidemen, you're in the arcade studio side of things. How do you feel that brands can get involved with creators and retain the joy of the authenticity?
First step, I think, will be identifying the right creators that authentically connect to your brand. So whether that be, I don't know, a mother and baby creator, or, I don't know, a sports-focused creator, or, I don't know, purely entertainment. It's working out which of these creators are the right ones for you to partner with, firstly, and kind of, I guess, share those brand principles or sort of, I guess, brand goals that they're looking to achieve. And then working out, do you want to go big with one, or do you want to work out from a layering perspective? We were chatting the other day about the importance of diversification and leveraging that Adtech, especially with Pixels. So we're habitually consuming content creators day to day on socials? How do we then lift that out and lift that experience, lift that habit into other placements, which will then, when we're scrolling or reading an article, for example, that will stop us in our tracks. So it's looking at that authenticity and looking at those connections. So if I'm consuming, I don't know, a mother and baby creator on social, let's then through the targeting, place them in those ads placements around certain articles or around certain publishers. Then stop that audience member or that consumer in their tracks. There's a piece of research and some great work that the System 1 guys are doing as well. And I think one of the big things I wanted to call out was they class content creator campaigns as a super touch point, which essentially is an opportunity for brands to drive long-lasting brand effects while also driving consideration in the funnel. So it's almost like, how do you find those creators as a super touch point, but then layer those and put those in different spaces and places where their audience are going to be. So I think it's a big opportunity for the creator space to actually extend and find more of their audience. But from a brand perspective, they can do it in a much more, I guess, like you said, controlled and measurable way. Work with that creator to deliver an authentic message rather than it kind of being on the nose. It could be on the nose. It depends what, I guess, the delivery of the creator is. And then going from there, it's going to be a lot of tested learning. I think, again, with that layer, you've got that exciting opportunity of working with many creators and testing and learning from all those different ad placements, right? And all those different ways of delivery, and then optimizing towards which ones are performing the best, or versus let's go with a big splash with the Sidemen, for example, and then, yeah, I guess going far-reaching, going into what I guess more higher-reaching publications as well, or niche publications. It can kind of work on both levels. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, Abby, how do you advise on this stuff? How do you get your clients and brands to get involved and retain that authenticity of the creators at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we're speaking to clients about any of the kind of major social platforms, we would always recommend a native first approach. So I would never recommend that any brand goes in and tries to build in a space where they're not a native, they don't know anything about it. So we've seen some horrendous things come out of that side of life. So I would always recommend working with creators, especially if you're launching in any new type of platform. We advocate any client coming into this space first to always position as doing a wide scale testing lots of different creators by size, by category, by engagement levels, everything you can think of, test it in phase one, and then look to basically optimize your always on by what you've learned in that phase. I would always recommend, and always do recommend to clients, working with creators in a meaningful way. I feel like that is such a cliche thing to say in influencer marketing, but that is really where you get the best results, where the relationship is perceived to be genuine. And when the relationship is perceived to be genuine is when there is a genuine fit, it makes sense, and also just frequency. Seeing that influencer talk or post multiple times about that product is far more believable. So though we suggest at the beginning, go broad and really test, pick the creators that you think are really working for you, find a way to measure that, and then pull that into an always-on program and keep those creators close to you. Involved with your product, involved with your customers, make them part of your business if and when you can. And that is best practice. That's not always possible, but some variation of that is going to drive authenticity over a few one-off bursts here and there. And what we know is that when we've tested influencer marketing campaigns alongside other media channels, influencer marketing campaigns actually have the longest return window, which can be up to 2 months. So again, it's something worth sticking with and being really dedicated to if you think it's the right solution for you, because in all likelihood, don't just look at conversions, because that's not necessarily a creator's role. But that conversion will come, but it may come through a different touch point and it may come later. So for authenticity and to actually make this channel work, I would recommend longer term results and really sticking with it and having a long-term mentality when you do it.
I was going to say, it's almost looking at like they're our customers rather than like they're your customers or my audience. It's like they're ours, right? I think a really great creator example at the moment is a creator called Melissa's Wardrobe, who's doing a lot of work with M&S at the moment, but also is known for her love, I think it was Aveeno. And a lot of her content was talking about, I can't travel with my Aveeno because I can't get it through the airport. So then Aveeno and her worked together to create a travel-sized Aveeno of the specific product she liked. That then I'm pretty sure sold out. She's also done, I think, a Blank Street Coffee collab as well, because it's like Melissa's Morning Matcha. So it's like, how do you find those synergies and almost collaboratively work with the brand and the creator's audience, because that is converting that consumer to customer, right? Or sorry, that community to customer right there, right? How do you see it as kind of, this is our consumer base, and you are the mouthpiece and I guess the mobilizer of them to help get more people into Ardor, and by us combining what cool things can we do or collaborations can we do to really add to their user experience or add to the reasons they go to Blankstraw, the reason they want to buy a vino over another brand.
Yeah, and I think the exciting part of that is that's the top of the funnel, not from a marketing point of view, but it's top of the funnel in terms of A/B test, find out what is authentic, what's working, what's resonating. Look at someone like Bose. Bose put out 10,000 pieces of influencer content every month. Like, how do you keep track of that, right? Spreadsheets flying around everywhere. But then, take the stuff that resonates, take the stuff that's actually working with those audiences, package it up, and then look at what happens after social. It's not authentic if you suddenly see that influencer content pop up all over different parts of social where it doesn't really fit and belong. Go and find a place for it where it's going to resonate with a targeted audience using some form of contextual targeting, whatever it might be, to say, right, we've got the example there of, traveling through customs with specific products. Go to travel sites, go to travel blogs, whatever it might be, package that up as the one that has worked from your A/B test and brand it commercially so that you get more value for money from that content beyond just social.
Yeah, I want to pick up on a couple of bits that each of you have said, actually. Abi, you mentioned your desire to have an ACAST layer, which I really like, and I'm sure ACAST would absolutely love. But it does raise the question of standardization and accountability in these metrics that we're using. How do you feel that can really fit with the creator economy? How can that push things forward for brands?
I think from a measurement perspective, I don't see the standardization of that being too much of an issue. Like, everyone's using the same data, everyone's using the same platforms and the same data. And there's an education piece around creators for that. I think it's more like the examples we've just talked about, like as best practice and when the magic really happens, they are manual moments, right? They are moments that you pick out that someone's got to spot, someone's got to find that creator, they then got to build that out. And this is always the rub for me with influencer stuff, is the best practice, and like we said, where the magic really happens in the moments that we're talking about now, don't sit in those kind of more standardized, kind of, efficient processes. It's always going to be a kind of a heavily manual process where you need big teams and you need resource and things to do it really well. So yeah, it's this industry is always going to struggle with that tension, and quite honestly, I don't think it's a challenge we'll ever fully overcome, but we'll just have to kind of adapt the way that like teams work and channels work and businesses work around it, because as much as I would love the ACAST model, I don't think we're quite going to get there.
Yeah, fair enough. Joe, on the standardization side of things and, metrics and agreed industry frameworks, how far along are we? What would you like to see around that from the creator point of view?
Yeah, for sure. And this is something that we're actively working with the likes of System 1, Nielsen, etc., to help formalise the creator space. I think from our point, there's a very exciting opportunity from the YouTube side of things with a Nielsen to look at, okay, we currently measure views and impressions as our two, I guess, CPM setters, or so we can sell on a CPM. But with a Nielsen coming into the picture and looking at kind of driving that effectiveness and wider spread and talkability, as you guys know, we currently count one view, but it could be, if we look at this year's 2025 charity match at Wembley Stadium, the whole crowd was filled with friends, yes, but it was also families, it was children, it was grandparents, it was people of all walks of life. So when we look at the Sidemen, and we have our weekly content shop, it's called Sidemen Sunday. It's kind of a 2 to 3 hour long form, high premiumly produced content shop. It is appointment to view viewing for the millennial, Gen Z and Gen Alpha generations, not just individuals, but as families. So how do we then work with a Nielsen to go, okay, that one view that we now track then becomes 4 views or becomes 3 views or whatever it could be, to really help extend that reach further. From a System 1 and tracking point of view, I would like to look at how can we measure, I guess, drive talkability, how can we measure CTR, how can we measure action taken, right? We worked with Lego recently on a Sidemen Sunday integration, which went really well. We drove over 140,000 competition entries. We had over 50,000 survey respondents, which was amazing from a piece of content pushed out on YouTube and through social. We were chatting to Lego after. They saw a 90% spike in their YouTube search traffic off the back of that as well. But how do we, rather than get, I guess, those serendipitous finds that you have to go actually look for, how can we put that in place and look at driving talkability? So from our side, looking at it from the highest level of the YouTube space. We want to work with the likes of these System Ones, the on devices of the world, to look at how can we measure pre and post, I guess, sentiment. How does this content, or how does it working with this particular creator actually drive metrics across the funnel? And I think, as I said at the top, we're at the start of that, and we're at the start very much of this, I guess, creator wave that's been bubbling in the background for over 15 years. But I think it will come, and on our side, we very much see ourselves as arcaders almost. It's our responsibility to help push that forward and work with those bodies to do so, because it will only help benefit the broader space.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think about the metric side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most important sort of three ingredients to actually giving return on investment to your marketing spend. And I think if you go back to that analogy of it being, discovered and being created on social, but actually that middle layer, that middleware that you need to do what you're talking about in terms of pulling in all these disparate bits of content that actually are resonating, and then working out how you package that up as a campaign outside of social, where you still retain the authenticity of the creator having, created that moment for that brand, but then looking at how it can be distributed in a much more measurable, much more consistent way, so that those that are in charge of the return for that campaign are seeing not just reach and not necessarily any brand recall down into the lower parts of the funnel, which is so important for actually evolving and developing a brand's spend when they're looking at like their marketing budget and their marketing ROI.
So it's going beyond top of funnel now.
Yeah,
down
definitely,
and
and as it should. And I think what the web is so good at is pushing that, what we call the messy middle, or many people call the messy middle, which is, you've got people who are able to go further than just watching an ad to actually engaging with it, clicking on it, etc. We see a 5 to 10x increase in click-through rates than you'd see on more conventional display or video ads, because right place, right time, you've actually got authentic creator content that is driving people's consideration towards that brand because it's right place, right time. Lean into that and actually see that it can be so much more than just a high reach campaign with not very much brand recall.
Yeah. The influx and exodus of people is telling me that we're probably towards time before the next session. However, I want to go a little bit because we started late. Abby, as part of the mixed media plan, how important are creators now, and how seriously should they be considered as a pillar of the creative plan?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I don't think any serious brand or unserious brand should be trying to operate a creative strategy in any kind of social spaces without it. I think the complexity sometimes has been in selling into brands is getting creator onto a media plan itself. And obviously the way it is kind of judged and marked against the other channels has always been a complex thing from an agency perspective. Because we don't have that standardization piece, we don't have it as a comparison point. And as we were talking about earlier, often it will, when you're looking at a CPM or a CPE on influencer or creator type content, that will take into account the production cost. When you're looking at a CPM or a CPT or anything else for TV or out of home, none of those take into account the production cost. Now, this seems such a minor thing, but actually it makes a huge difference in a cost to a client when a client is looking at that plan. So that kind of continues to be a real struggle, actually, because when you pull everything back down to CPM and CPE and you are comparing all the channels together, it can look disproportionately expensive, but actually creative is a huge part of that. So I think there is 100% a need for it. I think sometimes the selling in can continue to be difficult because of the expectation of how clients want to see value in their plan.
Just picking up on that, I mean, in terms of this kind of brave new world of like, how do you create this more kind of robust marketing tool from creator content? One of the biggest challenges that we find, and I think it's for exactly this point, that creator content does cost money to produce, is that the legal framework around being able to use that content beyond social is actually a real challenge. So, influencers are paid to put it out mainly on their channel, how do you then get a license for that content to use it elsewhere? And I think I would ask, anyone in this room, if they're considering creator content-led campaigns, to work with the agencies to ensure that you do have the license to use it beyond just social, because otherwise it will always live in social. You won't be able to measure it. You won't be able to create those more authentic touch points outside of social.
I was going to add, I think that is a symptom of the transactional era that we've been in the creator space, whereas we're now evolving and maturing into a collaborative space. I think some really great points that you guys have been bringing up during this chat it's how do you work for creator in a more strategic way? And if you're looking at a media plan, it's okay, maybe my creator is my hero or my shop window, but then how do I sweat that creator access for as much as possible, whether it be usage to use on paid, or whether you leverage, YouTube's AI-powered tools to leverage it on shorts, or looking at the stuff that you guys are doing at Pixels. How do I then take that individual and put them in those web units, all the way through to an Acast model? It's like I've seen the content, I've seen Melissa's wardrobe's working with Aveeno, but now I'm in the car listening to my favorite podcast and I hear Melissa's voice and she's talking about the same campaign, right? It's looking at it rather than it being a transactional, I have this budget, go say the thing. And then we do the hashtag ad and we all move on from it. It's quite passive and transactional. How do we then look at it? It's like almost your centerpiece, and then what is that content universe or wider media plan universe that you can build around it, right? And kind of slot those tactics or deliverables around what you're doing with the creator. It's almost your protagonist, and then the dressing around it.
Amazing. So much potential. Well, thank you so much for your time today, guys. Really appreciate it. That was a great discussion. And thank you all for listening. Appreciate it too. Take care.